I am the most pathetic marquise in all the capital. The Marquis of Jing'an married me solely because I'm kind-hearted and easy to manipulate. Before our wedding, he told me outright, as long as you treat my beloved concubine, Lady Bai, with kindness after entering this household, refraining from jealousy and rivalry, I will grant you the respect you deserve. For my family's sake, I had no choice but to marry him. From then on, Consort Bai sat while I stood. Consort Bai ate meat while I sipped broth. Imperial gifts were first picked by Consort Bai, only the leftovers came to me. I thought the Marquis of Jing'an was satisfied with my years of obedience. Yet when I prepared to leave, he blocked the doorway with trembling hands. You are my wife. You cannot go anywhere. Me? Isn't this making room for your beloved? My name is Gao Suyun. My father served as vice director of the Imperial Academy. From childhood, I earned a reputation for wisdom, kindness, and virtuous grace. After my coming-of-age ceremony, the dowager of the Jing'an Marquis' household, the current Marquis' mother, sent word to my grandmother. The letter hinted at my becoming the Marquis' second wife. The Marquis' first wife, Lady Li, had passed away 2 years prior. By both custom and reason, he should remarry to manage the household. Though he was 10 years my senior, a man's true worth lies in his abilities. The Marquis of Jing'an was a favored minister of the emperor, holding high rank and great power. His mansion was famously opulent and extravagant. For a daughter of a fourth-rank official like myself, this was undoubtedly a step up. At the time, I felt as if a pie had fallen from the sky and landed right on my head. Even my mother whispered to my father, when our Yun was born, the sky was filled with rosy light. Truly, she was born for greatness. My second sister and fourth sister were filled with envy. They teased me, saying, once you become the Marquis' wife, don't forget your sisters. I felt rather embarrassed, yet my heart swelled with sweet anticipation and dreams of the future. After the marriage was verbally agreed upon, the dowager of the Jing'an Marquis came to visit me at home. Her kind eyes and gentle smile radiated warmth as she presented me with a jade bracelet of exceptional quality. I knew she had always held me in high regard. In the years to come, I would serve her with devotion, bear sons and daughters for the marquisate, and manage its affairs with unwavering dedication. When the day of the dowager's birthday arrived, the marquisate specially sent an invitation, announcing that a renowned theatrical troupe from the capital had been invited. I was asked to come early with my grandmother and sisters. For this occasion, I painstakingly prepared an embroidered piece, working day and night for 5 or 6 days straight, intending it as a gift for the dowager. Yet on that day, I saw seated beside the dowager a woman of heavenly beauty. Dressed in brocade, adorned with jewels and ornaments, she seemed like a celestial consort. From her bearing to her manner, she was beyond reproach. Upon inquiry, I learned she was none other than the concubine of the Marquis of Jing'an. I knew Wu Jiu, nearing 30 and so dashingly charming, could hardly keep his hands to himself. Yet here she sat, openly beside the grand lady, revered by all in the Marquis' household. I watched the maids and servants coming and going, almost every task was done at her command. This wasn't a mere concubine, she held more dignity than the Marquise herself. And my future husband, Wu Jiu, couldn't take his eyes off this beloved concubine for even a moment. After sitting through part of the birthday banquet, my grandmother, sisters, and I all turned pale. We later inquired and learned this concubine was Bai Xinyang, who had been in the Marquis' household for over 2 years. Wu Jiu adored her deeply, showering her with boundless affection. For her sake, he had even dismissed all his other concubines. Were it not for her lowly origins, he might have even elevated her to the position of main wife. Alas, Bai Xinyang was a courtesan redeemed from a brothel. Though she had never entertained clients, she was simply too vulgar for refined company. Rumor had it she possessed remarkable skills, and though the dowager lady initially despised her, she gradually won the dowager lady's favor. Now I finally understood. My grandfather had only held a third-rank position before his death, while my eldest uncle and father, the highest-ranking officials in our family, held only fourth-rank posts. The Jing'an Marquis' household had chosen me precisely because I was honest, gentle, and easy to manipulate. They intended to propose marriage to me only to make me tolerate this concubine, who was being elevated to the heavens. Realizing the true intent behind this marriage, darkness flooded my vision and I nearly collapsed. No wonder they say fortune never falls from the sky. Truly a timeless truth. Had I married into this household, I would have received neither a husband's affection nor the dignity due a mistress of the house. Even a wooden doll possesses some spirit. How dare the Jing'an Marquis' household treat people this way? This match is worse than my eldest sister's marriage to that penniless scholar. At least she could hold her head high and run her household. Our family returned home with grim expressions. My fourth sister, still young, fumed, "The Wu family has gone too far." Indeed, the dowager of the Jing'an Marquis is cunning beyond measure. She orchestrated this spectacle today solely to force me into accepting such an arrangement. Heartbroken, I declared, "Grandmother, your granddaughter won't marry." Grandmother surveyed the room, then fixed her gaze on me for a moment before saying wearily, "Everyone except Yun may leave." Seeing grandmother had kept me alone, I knelt with a thud. "Grandmother, I won't marry." The Jing'an Marquis' household is a hellhole. Marriage is meant to unite two families, yet from start to finish, Lord Wu has never once spared his granddaughter a glance. His heart and satisfaction rest solely with his beloved concubine. He wants me to marry him only to turn me into a mere ornamental puppet. If I were to endure this, would it not be lowering myself to the lowest depths? With his conduct, no respectable family would ever consider marrying their daughter to him. Grandmother gave a cold laugh and said, "Yun, I'll tell you plainly. Were it not for that concubine, with the Jing'an Marquis' power, status, talent, and looks, he could marry any woman he desired, even a princess. He chose you precisely because of that concubine." Tears poured down my face as I knelt and crawled to grandmother's side, clutching her hand and pleading, "I won't marry into a high-ranking family. I'd rather marry a poor scholar like my eldest sister than live this life." After grandfather passed, the Gao family was only a second-tier aristocratic house in the capital. Though not as opulent as the Jing'an Marquis' estate, my grandfather had concubines, and so did my eldest uncle. I know well the strife between wives and concubines. Wu's deliberate display on the day I visited signaled his demand, to marry him, I must respect his concubine and tolerate her presence. Agreeing would mean a lifetime of humiliation. If I refused and clashed with his beloved concubine, he would not take my side. A marquisate household is no small affair, such a vast estate requires someone to manage it. If I married in, would the servants heed my commands or those of the concubine? Domestic discord would reign, causing unrest throughout the household and endless harm. Grandmother sighed softly, "Yun, my dear, how could I bear to see you suffer? Yet this marriage must proceed." Her voice grew somber. "Your eldest uncle erred in his official duties." Only through the Jing'an Marquis' decisive intervention was his position preserved. Now, your eldest uncle holds the highest position in our family. If he were to fall from grace, what would become of your sisters? You've always been the most kind-hearted and sensible. This time, consider it a sacrifice for the family. Grandmother embraced me, silent for a moment before saying, "I met her today. This concubine isn't some monster. She's merely young and beautiful, a fleeting novelty. You are so intelligent, gentle, beautiful, and sensible, the Marquis of Jing'an will always have a place for you in his heart." Grandmother, as someone who has lived through it, knows that men are not devoted. Their affection is fleeting, lasting only as long as it lasts. As long as you stand firm, keep your distance from that concubine, and fulfill your duties, life will carry on. I knelt there numbly, unable to utter a word. So, I had no way out. Returning to my room, I wept bitterly. Mother said sadly, "I'll beg your grandmother to change her mind." Father paced anxiously in the room. "Ah, it's useless. It's all your eldest uncle's fault." Yes, it was useless. In grandmother's heart, my eldest uncle's official position mattered more than me. And what she said was true. If my eldest uncle lost his position, my father would remain merely a scholar at the Imperial Academy. My third and fourth uncles had achieved nothing. Then our Gao family would gradually decline. My sisters might all be forced into marriages, facing even harder lives ahead. Moreover, our family had already promised the Jing'an Marquis. If we reneged now, we might even offend him. And so, I remained silent all night. The next day, I told grandmother, I wish to meet with the Marquis. Grandmother nodded, "Very well." 3 days later, grandmother arranged for me to offer incense at the temple. The Marquis of Jing'an was waiting for me in the pavilion behind the temple. Upon meeting him, I curtsied properly. With his hands clasped behind his back, the Marquis of Jing'an said calmly, "I hear you have something to say." I took a deep breath and said, "Your lordship and I are discussing marriage, so there are matters I believe should be clarified beforehand." Wu Zhiyu nodded. "Reasonable." I continued, "I understand now. Your reason for wanting to marry me is to ensure I treat Lady Bai well." The Marquis of Jing'an sneered coldly, "Correct." He didn't even bother to hide it. Clearly, he didn't regard me at all. I gasped, then said, "Your lordship is open and upright, and has done the Gao family a great favor. I, Gao Suyun, am willing to marry you." I paused, then continued, "But a family must always have someone to oversee the whole. I hear the dowager is advanced in years and cannot attend to every matter personally. The household's daily affairs require management. The Marquis's social engagements also demand the care of a matriarch. Since concubine Bai is so deeply favored by both you and the dowager, how would I conduct myself after marrying in? Favoring a concubine over one's wife creates unrest in the inner quarters. Should this reach the ears of the censor or His Majesty, it would be most unwise." The Marquis of Jing'an curled his lips in disdain. "Does this Marquis fear their impeachment?" I replied respectfully, "Domestic discord is a grave taboo. I assure you I will never mistreat concubine Bai after entering the household. Yet I implore your lordship to clearly delineate our respective duties, lest disputes arise between us in the future. I have no desire to live in an environment of constant suspicion and betrayal, you plotting against me, I plotting against you. I believe your lordship also wishes to return home from your arduous duties free from tedious quarrels between wives and concubines." Upon hearing these words, the Marquis of Jing'an finally looked at me with genuine attention. He raised an eyebrow. "The dowager said you were kind and sensible. I see you're quite clever too. Could it be that great wisdom appears as foolishness?" I shook my head. "If I were truly clever, your lordship wouldn't have chosen me. I only wish we could clarify matters now to avoid future difficulties. This was the greatest advantage I could secure for myself." The Marquis of Jing'an nodded. "Very well. Henceforth, all affairs of the Marquisate shall be managed by you, the wife. You shall also handle all kinship and social obligations. The courtyard of concubine Bai and my study need not trouble you. The study is the most crucial place. He truly doesn't trust me. Still, this is already quite good." Keeping my eyes on my nose and my nose on my heart, I replied earnestly, "Thank you, your lordship." Before parting, I murmured softly, "Your lordship is a man of great deeds. You must know that a family's greatest fear is discord. Such discord brings endless calamity upon future generations." The Marquis of Jing'an replied coldly, "I need no lectures from you." "Not at all." I stepped back, clearing a path. And so, 2 months later, I married Marquis Wu Zhiyu of Jing'an. Grandmother, heartbroken for me, provided a generous dowry. Fearing the Marquis's household might look down on me, father and mother emptied our family savings. I asked mother to take back some, saying, "Who knows what the future holds for our family? My younger brother is still young, let's save more for his education and marriage." My brother, Gao Yaotian, was only 10 years old. He would need money for so many things in the years ahead. Mother wept like a broken-hearted woman. "My dear child. It is the family that has failed you." My siblings clung to me, reluctant to part. With a firm resolve, I released my loved one's hands and left the Gao household, my vision blurred by tears. From this day forward, whatever happens, I must face it alone. Fortunately, on the night of the wedding, Wu Zhiyu did come to the main chamber. He drank the ceremonial wine with me and consummated the marriage. Though he showed no tenderness and was quite perfunctory, at least he spared me a shred of dignity in front of the guests. The very next day, he retired to concubine Bai's quarters. Ruame protested indignantly on my behalf. How could the main chamber be left empty on the second night of the wedding? That concubine Bai is utterly inconsiderate. I sighed. This wasn't concubine Bai's fault. The Marquis could go wherever he pleased. You must understand the situation, to the Marquis and concubine Bai, we are the outsiders. I'd follow grandmother's advice, avoid contention, focus on my duties. If I placed too much hope in Wu Xiu or the Marquis's household, I'd only hurt myself. So I settled my mind, packed my belongings, organized my dowry, and gradually took charge of household matters. Each day I paid respects to the dowager, inquired after her well-being, fulfilling my duty as a daughter-in-law. The dowager lady treated me with great gentleness, though her words carried subtle admonitions. You are the legitimate wife. No one will ever surpass you. Never tie your own hands. I replied softly, I understand, mother. Thank you for your guidance. The dowager lady nodded approvingly. I knew you were a clever one. After I entered the household, concubine Bai came to pay her respects only once. After that, she claimed her constitution was too weak and her health was poor, and never came again. I suppose she didn't wish to see me. Fortunately, I didn't wish to see her either. So I had the servants relay a message, Auntie, please rest well. There's no need to come. Ruame was so angry she was speechless. In all of Beijing, which household has a concubine like this? Is there any sense of propriety left? She deserves a taste of her own medicine. I sighed inwardly, ignore her. Pretend she doesn't exist. If I dared mistreat Bai Xinyang, Wu Xiu would likely jump in to defend her at the first opportunity. Why invite trouble? After marrying into the household, I gradually sorted out the affairs of the home mansion's steward. The Wu family employed many long-serving servants, cunning and slippery. Seeing I never dared cause trouble for concubine Bai, they took me for a soft-hearted fool, easy to push around. So they openly cut corners and skimmed funds right under my nose. I remained silent, never raising my voice or unleashing thunderous wrath. Instead, I meticulously recorded each offense before seeking the Grand Lady's judgment. The Grand Lady, well-versed in household management, understood that showing leniency from the start would undermine my authority. She therefore punished these individuals severely. The servants of the Marquis's household dared not speak their anger aloud, privately muttering that I was a dog that didn't bark. I pretended not to hear. After all, a household must have its rules, punishment for wrongdoing and reward for merit. Only then could the atmosphere within the manor be properly set. After taking charge of household affairs, I discovered that concubine Bai couldn't care less who managed the estate. Wu Xiu, fearful she might suffer injustice, had purchased numerous valuable fields and shops for her outside the manor. These assets far exceeded my own dowry by several times over. Merely collecting rent each month would leave her hands numb from the wealth. No wonder it was said concubine Bai showered gold coins as rewards, with everyone in the manor vying for her favor. Moreover, while the Marquis used soybean oil for lamps purchased centrally, Madame Bai's quarters exclusively used costly whale oil. Whale oil was extremely scarce, mostly reserved for the imperial court. This alone revealed the staggering wealth of the Marquis of Jing'an's household. Thus, even if I were to be unkind to Madame Bai, she had nothing to fear. Why should I be the villain? Thus, the finest clothing and provisions are supplied to concubine Bai each month. Whether she uses them herself or bestows them upon her servants, it's entirely up to her. Wu Shui essentially resides only in his study or concubine Bai's courtyard. He only came to the main residence on the 1st and 15th days of the lunar month to fulfill his duties toward me. I always greeted him with courtesy and a smile. When he visited, I neither refused nor complained. When he didn't come, I felt no sorrow. Each day, I simply attended to my own affairs. Even when the brocades and trinkets bestowed by His Majesty were first selected by concubine Bai, and only the leftovers were sent to me, I raised no objection. Seeing me so content and unassuming, Wu Xiu found little to criticize. Thus, a year slipped by swiftly, and indeed, all remained peaceful. In my leisure hours, I read, painted, embroidered, and arranged flowers. Sometimes I'd play cards with the maids. For a time, life was pleasantly uneventful. Before I married in, many of Wu Xiu's friends didn't think highly of me. They believed his excessive favoring of concubine Bai would be the root of family discord, that any woman would inevitably cause trouble. Yet unexpectedly, I endured it all. Wu Xiu's closest friend, Song Hanlin, was utterly astonished. He repeatedly sought advice from him outside the home. Brother Xiu, how did you achieve such harmony within your household? How did you manage to keep your wives and concubines at peace? Please share your secrets with us. I went out drinking just once, and my wife nearly scratched my face to pieces. Wu Zhiyu would always smile without answering, his eyes brimming with satisfaction. Even the Grand Dowager praised me to outsiders, calling me virtuous and magnanimous. My good reputation spread, and my sisters gradually found suitable matches. My eldest uncle weathered this crisis and grew more cautious and prudent in his official dealings. Seeing the Gao family thrive, I felt my sacrifice had been worthwhile. On the 9th day of the 7th month the following year, it was the birthday of Wu Zhiyu's aunt. His aunt had married into the Duke of Yingong's household, and the birthday banquet was hosted by her eldest daughter-in-law, Lady He. Lady He and concubine Bai were very close friends. It was said that Lady He had initially looked down upon concubine Bai's background, but when Lady He's family had encountered difficulties, it was Bai Xinyang who had pleaded with Wu Zhiyu for help, resolving the matter. Madam He was profoundly grateful. Though Wu Zhiyu adhered to strict principles in both his personal conduct and official duties, he never refused anything Madame Bai requested or spoke of. Consequently, everyone sought to curry favor with Madame Bai, treating her with warmth and deference for the sake of the Jing'an Marquis's influence. I understood this was Wu Zhiyu's strategy. Whoever he chose to elevate would never be neglected. Thus, upon arriving at the Duke of Ying's residence, Lady He exchanged only a polite remark with me before setting me aside. She warmly took Bai Xinyang's hand and began chatting. Auntie, you're growing more beautiful by the day, even I, a woman, find myself envious. Bai Xinyang covered her mouth and giggled, is your tongue dipped in honey? Oh my, this robe must be shoe brocade. The two chattered away, utterly oblivious to my presence beside them. The other ladies-in-waiting saw this and swarmed around Bai Xinyang, surrounding her. Some praised her jewelry, others her garments. Roame, seeing me ignored, seethed with fury, veins bulging on her temples. I shook my head at her and found a corner to sit alone. Sitting on the sidelines was nothing new, I'd grown accustomed to it over the past year. But barely had I settled down when I overheard two young wives whispering in the next compartment, that woman just now is the new wife of the Marquis of Jing'an, Lady Gao. She's not bad looking, is she? What good is beauty? Didn't you see? She can't even hold a candle to that by concubine. Honestly, she's useless, completely overshadowed by a mistress. If it were me, I'd fight tooth and nail until everyone's face was lost. Sigh, it wouldn't matter anyway. Everyone knows the Marquis of Jing'an only has eyes for that by concubine. When the dowager lady once suggested marrying my younger sister into the family, my parents refused outright on the spot. Exactly. What family would willingly send their daughter into a fiery pit? This gal must be a pitiful soul too. My heart ached bitterly at these words, yet I could do nothing. Circumstances dictate our fate. I've carved out the widest possible space for my own survival. As for the rest, I choose to see nothing, hear nothing. But the words of outsiders still cut like knives into my heart. With that thought, I sighed and moved to sit elsewhere, hoping to avoid being noticed by those two and causing further awkwardness. But as I turned, I saw Wu Zhiyu supporting the grand lady standing behind me, both their expressions unsettled. I lowered my head, composed myself, and offered the grand lady a smile. Mother, have you finished speaking with Aunt? I asked. Shall I escort you back to your seat? The grand lady closed her eyes briefly before replying, Good child, let's go. Before leaving, she shot Wu Zhiyu a piercing glance. Though Wu Zhiyu said nothing, his expression was decidedly uncomfortable. After returning to the estate, the Grand Duchess specifically presented me with a set of crimson gold hair ornaments. Perhaps it was to save my face. It was said she later reprimanded Wu Zhiyu in the main courtyard. Gao sure was the one you chose to marry. Even if you no longer favor her, she remains your legitimate wife. You must not show such blatant partiality. But Wu Zhiyu replied. To me, only Xinyang is my wife. The grand lady fumed, you favor concubine Bai, and I said nothing. I hosted banquets, granted her dignity, no other concubine in the capital lives more comfortably than her. But if you go too far, what will people think? Hearts are made of flesh. Wu Zhiyu remained silent for a long while. These words reaching my ears were surely meant for me by the grand lady. I maintained my respectful demeanor, saying nothing about other matters. After this incident, Wu Xiu treated me better than before and was willing to give me some face in front of relatives and friends. Once, His Royal Highness the Crown Prince hosted a banquet, inviting many young talents. Bringing consort by, a concubine, to such an occasion would have been inappropriate. So Wu Xiu brought me instead. During the banquet, His Highness the Crown Prince felt inspired to compose poetry and invited everyone to improvise verses. The winner would receive a night pearl, a precious gem recently tribute from the East Sea. Though the night pearl was extraordinarily valuable, the guests were more eager to showcase their talents before the Crown Prince. Thus, they all strained their minds, determined to claim this prize. In the end, Wu Xiu won with a 7-line regulated verse. That night, in high spirits, he immediately presented the pearl to me, saying, "This is a gift from His Highness the Crown Prince. Keep it well." Though uneasy, I had no choice but to accept it. Yet that very night, upon returning home, concubine Bai fell ill. Her condition showed no improvement for several days. Finally, Wu Xiu returned to me, his face flushed, and said, "That night pearl." I hastily had it brought out and handed it to him. "Here it is, Your Excellency. Take it. Why let Lady Bai suffer over such a trifle?" Wu Xiu looked awkward. "Xin Yang is frail, and this. The night pearl can calm her nerves. I'll take it for a while and return it to you." Before he could finish, I said flatly, "It's unnecessary. This pearl never truly belonged to me. Taking it back would be meaningless." Over a month later, a letter arrived unexpectedly from my maternal home, announcing trouble for my second elder sister. She had married half a year after my own wedding. Fortune smiled upon her. She wed General Lin's youngest son. My brother-in-law was honest and ambitious, showering her with affection. The only drawback was her mother-in-law, who proved exceedingly difficult to deal with. She would berate my sister at the slightest provocation and constantly demanded she follow strict rules. Recently, after my sister became pregnant, her mother-in-law inexplicably forced her to stand as punishment for an entire day. That very night, my sister began bleeding. My mother-in-law was furious and insisted on taking my mother to the Lin household to confront them. As Lady Ho, I held a relatively high standing among the womenfolk, so I was also summoned to accompany them and stand up for my sister. Upon arriving at the Gao residence, we found my sister looking sallow and haggard, clearly having endured much hardship. But before we, her maternal family, could react, her mother-in-law turned the tables, listing all my sister's faults. She accused her of disrespecting her in-laws, having a bad temper, and claimed the miscarriage was entirely her own fault. My eldest aunt was furious. She shouted, "What kind of mother-in-law are you? After finally getting a grandson, you mistreat your daughter-in-law. You deliberately caused her to lose the child. My daughter is the gentlest soul, and you're bullying her because she's kind. Our Gao family isn't short of people. We won't tolerate you treating my daughter like this." My second sister's mother-in-law stood with her hands on her hips. "There's no such thing as a perfect elder. What makes your Gao family daughters so precious that they dare disobey their mother-in-law?" I interjected, "That's not how you should speak. Family harmony brings prosperity." Regardless, my second sister was carrying the Lin family's flesh and blood. My second sister's mother-in-law rolled her eyes at me and sneered, "Oh, look who it is, the lady of the Jing'an Marquis. Everyone knows the Marquis favors his concubines over his wife. He never took you seriously. He can't even control his own concubines. If I were you, I wouldn't come out here to embarrass myself." My mother flew into a rage. "I'll tear that filthy mouth of yours off." Chaos erupted instantly. The shouting match raged all afternoon, neither side yielding. Finally, with no other choice, my eldest aunt took my second sister back to our maternal home. Before we left, my second sister's mother-in-law declared, "I won't let my son go fetch your daughter back. If you've got the guts, don't ever come back." Back home, grandmother scolded my aunt for acting impulsively. If they truly refuse to take her back, does that mean second daughter can't return? My aunt wept, "She's flesh of my flesh. How could I bear to send her back to suffer?" Second sister's mother-in-law wouldn't even properly care for her during her postpartum confinement. She couldn't even get a bowl of chicken soup. Hearing this, grandmother couldn't hold back her tears either. In these times, a good husband is secondary, a good mother-in-law is paramount. No one could have imagined second sister's mother-in-law to be so brazen and shameless, practically like a destitute peasant. After bustling about for half a day, I hadn't been much help. I only managed to get some top-quality ginseng for my eldest aunt so she could help second sister recuperate. Wiping her tears, my eldest aunt said to me, "Good child, thank you. You've had your own hardships." After returning to the Jing'an Marquis's residence, I felt restless and sat on the couch for a long while, unable to recover my composure. Life is hard for women in this world. Like me, I've only failed to win my husband's heart, but at least the dowager hasn't mistreated me. Enduring and persevering, the days pass. But what reputation do I have outside? Nothing but a useless, good-for-nothing fool. What will become of my second sister? Her husband is dutiful, he dares not defy his own mother. Must they be torn apart like this? Lost in heavy thoughts, I didn't notice the sun sinking low in the west. Only when the maids announced the Marquis had arrived did I realize today was the 15th. I hurriedly ordered the servants to set the table. Wu Zhi remarked, "What were you so lost in thought about? I called you several times before you heard." I replied, "Nothing much. Just thinking about my sisters back at my mother's family." To avoid awkward small talk, I briefly recounted the day's events. Wu Zhi asked, "Why didn't you come to me for help with this?" I froze. "Huh?" Wu Zhi smiled and explained, "When Lady Lin and General Lin first met in humble circumstances, I hear she came from a butcher's family, she was notoriously fierce and difficult. Her behavior stems from doting on her eldest son, a case of favoritism run amok. Her resentment spills over onto others, extending to her disdain for her youngest daughter-in-law. So that's how it was. Every family has its own troubles, indeed." Wu Zhi spoke calmly, "Lady Lin's eldest son works under me. His mother dares to bully my wife's sisters, that means she doesn't respect me. When I return, I'll make him pay. He'll understand what to do." Hearing the word wife, I felt uneasy. "Your lordship, there's no need to trouble yourself." I knew full well I was only the nominal marchioness. I wasn't like Bai, the concubine, I had no standing to ask him for favors. Wu Zhi's expression shifted slightly. "You're being rather polite to me, aren't you?" He cleared his throat, pressing a hand to his lips. "Rest assured. You are, after all, the Marquis of Jing'an's wife. The Lin family's disrespect toward you is disrespect toward me. Since you married me, I will never let you suffer injustice." Never let me suffer injustice? But wasn't he the one causing me the greatest injustice? I opened my mouth but ultimately held my tongue. 2 days later, news arrived from my maternal family. It said Lady Lin, breaking her usual reserve, had gone to the Gao household with great fanfare to fetch my second sister. She had also promised to treat her young daughter-in-law well henceforth, begging only that I speak favorably of her eldest son before the Marquis. Could it be that Wu Zhi had truly intervened? I was taken aback. Indeed, rank brings power. Seeing my second sister's family matters settled properly, I felt considerably relieved. I had intended to thank Wu Zhi by sewing him some clothes or preparing food. But his garments, shoes, and socks were all managed by Aunt Bai, requiring no involvement from me. After some thought, I decided it best not to stir up trouble unnecessarily. So, I only made a headband and knee pads for the Grand Duchess. To show my dedication, I specially selected a beautiful jade from my dowry to inlay into them. The grand lady knew at a glance that I had put my heart into this work. She loved them dearly, taking my hand and saying, "Strong winds reveal sturdy grass, times of turmoil show true loyalty." Before I worried you were only outwardly obedient. I never imagined you were genuinely honest and exceptionally perceptive. Rest assured, the Marquis will not treat you poorly from now on. I replied, "Thank you for your praise, mother. I've always been a simpleton, I simply do as my elders instruct, knowing they would never harm me." The dowager lady gazed at me quietly for a moment before sighing wistfully, "As for him, he will come to recognize your worth." My heart trembled. I didn't need him to see my worth. After this incident, I couldn't tell what the dowager lady and Wu Zhi had whispered to him, but he began visiting more frequently than before. From twice a month, it increased to 3 or 5 times. 2 months later, I discovered I was pregnant. On the very day I learned of my pregnancy, concubine fainted. Ruame muttered under her breath, "You just found out you're with child," and she goes and makes a big fuss about seeing a doctor. What a jinx! All these years, Wu Jiu had remained childless. His first wife, Lady Li, was frail and bore him no heirs. Concubine Bai, born in a brothel, was rumored to have been given fertility-suppressing medicine, making conception difficult for her too. This time, my pregnancy filled the grand lady with boundless joy. She showered me with precious ingredients and assigned an experienced matron to attend to my every need. Even Wu Jiu began paying more attention, visiting my quarters several times. I imagine these developments were rather bitter for concubine Bai. But I was overjoyed to have a child. Whether boy or girl, it would deepen my ties to the Marquis's household. It would also help me establish a firm foothold within the Marquis's residence. A woman relies on her husband in her first half of life, and on her children in the second. One day, the physician took my pulse and declared my health robust, my pulse strong and steady. He advised me only to rest and await the birth. My spirits lifted, and at noon I devoured a large bowl of wontons, even adding a goosefat pastry. Since my pregnancy, not only Ruame wore her joy on her sleeve, but every servant in my quarters walked with a spring in their step, radiating happiness. Yet that evening, Wu Jiu arrived unexpectedly. After inquiring about my condition and learning all was well, he cautiously proposed, "I've learned your father's superior is due for promotion. Given his steadfast reliability, if we could intercede, he'd surely advance another rank." His tone felt peculiar, so I replied, "Your Excellency needn't trouble yourself. My father's talents are unremarkable, it would be unbecoming for virtue to exceed position. Father is well educated, but he's far from seasoned in the ways of officialdom." Wu Jiu raised an eyebrow. Doesn't every woman hope for a powerful maternal family, so she can live comfortably in her husband's household? I sighed. No matter how high my father rises, he could never match the Jing'an Marquis. Otherwise, I would have divorced him immediately to marry a true husband. Instead of enduring this life of swallowing my pride and tiptoeing around. Of course, I dared not voice this thought aloud, only replying, "Truly, it is unnecessary." Wu Jiu studied me intently, hesitating for a moment before finally saying, "You are with child, and Shuang. Her mood has been quite unsettled." How was I supposed to respond to that? I could only obediently shut my mouth. Wu Jiu sighed, "Xingyang has been with me all this time, yet she hasn't borne me a son or daughter." I said, "With proper rest and nourishment, it will happen eventually. My maternal aunt knows a master gynecologist, I can introduce him to Auntie Bai when the time comes." These were all polite words. Auntie Bai was so delicate, I dared not recommend a doctor to her. Wu Jiu stared into my eyes, clenching his teeth, "I can secure promotions for both your father and your eldest uncle. If you bear a child, your firstborn. Could you give it to Xingyang to raise?" Wu Jiu's words felt like a bucket of ice water, doused over my head. My heart, brimming with joy, shattered into nothingness in an instant. My heart felt wrenched violently, the pain nearly choking the breath from me. This is what happens when kindness is taken for granted. Step back again and again, yield time and time again. In the end, you'll only be trampled underfoot. My eyes stung and burned, my hands trembling almost beyond control. They were right, you wouldn't find a more shameless lady in all the capital. I couldn't even protect my own child. What good were these past 2 years of following every rule, of working diligently? The next moment, a faint sweetness touched my throat, then a sudden choking sensation filled my chest, and my mouth was filled with the taste of blood. Seeing me spit blood, Wu Jiu's expression changed drastically. What happened to you? Someone! Quick! Someone! Call the physician!" Ruame was nearly scared to death, frantically rubbing my chest to help me breathe. Miss! Don't do this! Breathe! Don't frighten your servant like this." When the physician finally arrived in a panic, he hurriedly took my pulse and examined me. The suddenness of the incident even alarmed the grand lady. What on earth happened? Why would she spit blood out of nowhere? The physician explained. Lady Ho is carrying a child. She must take good care of herself and avoid extreme emotions. As the Yellow Emperor's classic of internal medicine states, anger causes qi to reverse. Severe cases may lead to vomiting blood or diarrhea. Her qi has injured the stomach meridian. The physician prescribed medicine and departed. Ruame, uneasy, followed to ask about further precautions. Seeing my face as pale as gold leaf and my breath as faint as a thread, the grand lady's eyes reddened. What on earth is wrong? When I remained silent, she turned to Wu Jiu. Wu Jiu was also startled. In his mind, I had willingly submitted to him for the sake of my maternal family's fortunes and my eldest uncle's official position. Surely I was one who craved power and wealth. He believed he had offered sufficient concessions, never expecting I would be so enraged I vomited blood. Upon learning the truth, the dowager lady turned to Wu Jiu with disappointment. Jiu, you were always intelligent from childhood, diligent in both studies and martial arts. As an adult, you served as an official, managing the household with great effort. That is precisely why I acquiesced to your wishes, allowing concubine Bai to lord it over the manor. But today you utter such words. Have you lost your mind? If this spreads, what face will the Jing'an Marquis' household retain? How can I ever face the Gao family again? The dowager lady reeled from the shock, dizziness overwhelming her. Supported by a maid, she sank into a seat and sighed bitterly. Had I known this would happen, I never would have arranged your marriage. I should have let you remain childless and unmarried. What a tragedy! What a tragedy! Wu Jiu's face turned ashen. After a long moment, he murmured, it was merely asking. I never insisted on taking the child away. I only thought she could bear more children in the future. This first child was meant for Xinyang, to give her support in her old age. It was merely a transaction. Had she refused, I wouldn't have forced her. The dowager lady's expression turned bitterly resigned as she shook her head with self-mockery. She had always believed that as long as I remained sensible, Wu Jiu would eventually open his heart to me. But now it seemed, it had been nothing but wishful thinking. She no longer looked at Wu Jiu, addressing only me, my dear child, don't dwell on this. I'm here for you. The Jing'an Marquis' household won't tolerate their meddling. I'd been too overcome with emotion, unable to compose myself for a long while. After this turmoil, I finally began to clear my head. I opened my mouth, a single tear falling. Your daughter-in-law has something to say. The dowager lady immediately replied, my child, speak freely. I will grant you anything. I slowly sat up, turned to Wu Jiu, and said, I wish to know why concubine Bai wanted my child. Wu Jiu's expression darkened. If you don't want to, then don't. This commotion is already more than enough. Why press the matter further? So now I'm the one being relentless? I twisted my lips and said, Your lordship, since I married into this household, I have never treated concubine Bai harshly. Every allowance in her quarters was of the finest quality. I never courted or oppressed the servants under her command. Imperial gifts only reached me after she picked the best. Even when His Royal Highness the Crown Prince bestowed a night pearl upon me, I returned it intact when Madame Bai expressed desire for it. Tell me, how many women could endure such treatment with composure? Having gone this far, have I not fulfilled my promise to you? Wu Jiu faltered, falling silent for a moment before replying. You've done well. I drew a deep breath. Concubine Bai possesses vast estates and never lacks for money. If she wished, she could easily purchase a stunning beauty for the Marquis, bear a child, and then sell it off. Wouldn't a child obtained this way be safer and more secure than one stolen from me? Wu Jiu remained silent. The grand lady's expression shifted slightly. I sighed. I don't know how concubine Bai approached you, whether with pleading or feigned weakness. But her true aim wasn't to raise a child. She was simply too clever. Women may seem weak, but motherhood makes them fierce. Madame Bai knew I'd rather die than give her my child. So she acted first, forcing me to strike her in self-defense. Wu Jiu froze. I continued, for a man, the greatest hatred is the murder of his father or the theft of his wife. But for a woman, if her own child falls into another's hands, I would suffer a pain that gnaws at my bones and burns my heart every single day. Wu Jiu opened his mouth. I closed my eyes briefly and sighed. Ever since I became pregnant, the dowager has shown me great favor, and the marquis visits more often than usual. Consort Bai sees this, naturally growing anxious. Though Bai Xingyang is deeply cherished, this honor, unmatched by her station, is like oil poured on a raging fire, or flowers adorning brocade. How could she possibly rest easy watching me bear legitimate sons and daughters? I looked at Wu Xiyu and the dowager and said, word by word, this is the first time concubine Bai has struck against me. Only she used the marquis's hand, not a hidden scheme, but a blatant one. Concubine Bai's plot was truly vicious. I was truly enraged by her, nearly driven to extreme actions. Fortunately, my mind remained clear, and I didn't fall for it. Both Wu Xiyu and the Grand Lady were shrewd individuals. They instantly understood the situation. The Grand Lady exclaimed in astonishment, I told you so. A woman from that kind of background has an impure heart. Yet you were blinded by love. Wu Xiyu gritted his teeth, you're overthinking it. Xingyang has a pure heart. She certainly didn't mean it that way. Those favored indeed grow bold beyond measure. I sighed, Your Excellency may choose not to believe it, but having lived with concubine Bai for years, you ought to know her better than anyone. Thus, according to concubine Bai's scheme, if I had raised a hand against her, I would inevitably have been cast aside by you. At best, I'd be divorced, at worst, stripped of all authority and confined to a corner courtyard for the rest of my days. At that point, it would be my own fault, and the Gao family couldn't intervene on my behalf. Concubine Bai could eliminate this threat while also naturally taking charge of raising the Marquis's offspring. Killing 2 birds with 1 stone. No, 3 birds with 1 stone. With me as a puppet, the Jing'an Marquis's household wouldn't need to take another wife. Only then would concubine Bai truly feel secure. After I finished speaking, both the Grand Lady and Wu Xiyu wore expressions of shock. I gave them time to grasp the crux of the matter. The Grand Lady drew a deep breath and snapped angrily, I've always said, elevating a concubine too highly is the root of disaster for the family. Xiyu, if you continue to indulge her, don't blame me for taking drastic measures. Wu Xiyu's face twisted with anguish. I understood. To him, concubine Bai was pitiable and endearing, whatever she did seemed justified. If she wanted to strike me, I should offer my cheek. But this time, I refused to play along. Wu Xiyu's voice was heavy, that's all her side of the story. It's too hasty. Xingyang. She wouldn't scheme like that. The dowager lady roared in fury, at this critical moment, you still defend her. Where have your wits and strategy gone? As she spoke, she clutched her forehead and toppled backward as if losing her balance. Mother! 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 Grandmother! Seeing the matriarch collapse, everyone in the room was terrified. Wu Xiyu scooped her up and rushed back to the main courtyard. Call the physician. I was startled too. If anything happened to the matriarch, I'd have no one left to rely on. Fortunately, the physician hadn't gone far and was summoned back from the Marquis's residence. After taking her pulse, he found the matriarch was not seriously ill. She was simply advanced in years, and her anger had overwhelmed her heart. With proper rest and a few doses of medicine, she would recover. The entire day had been a chaotic spectacle, with one incident following another. Only as the sun dipped below the horizon did Wu Xiyu stagger back to my courtyard. He seemed utterly exhausted, offering only a faint reassurance, Mother is fine. You needn't worry. Now that you are with child. Let this matter end here. I will counsel Xingyang and consider you and the child. I watched Wu Xiyu quietly and replied earnestly, Your lordship need not fret. I wish not to place you in a difficult position. At present, I have 2 solutions to avoid conflict. Would you like to hear them? Wu Xiyu lifted his eyes to meet mine. Speak. I spoke softly. First, send concubine Bai out of the estate. Arrange a residence outside for her to serve. Only when she leaves the Marquis's residence can I guarantee the safety of myself and the child. Otherwise, we cannot guard against every possibility. Wu Xiyu clenched his fists, his voice cold. You wish to drive concubine Xi away based on mere conjecture? That is too much. I hesitated for a moment before saying, word by word, since your lordship refuses option 1, then let us choose option 2. I am willing to bear the child and entrust its care to concubine Bai. But after the child is born, I shall seek a divorce and leave the estate." At these words, Wu Xiu froze completely. Moments later, a flicker of anger crossed his face. "Are you feigning retreat to advance your position?" I shook my head gently. "Your lordship, I have nowhere left to retreat. For so long, Bai and I have coexisted peacefully precisely because I have always yielded. But once I bear a child, that balance will be shattered. Whether the child is boy or girl, wise or mischievous, it will inevitably draw your affection, even if only a small portion. Bai would never accept that. And she isn't wrong. For it was you who lifted her to such heights. She cannot and will not come down. Once she was too prominent. Should she fall from favor, it would be like tumbling from the heavens to the earth. No one could bear it." Wu Ji took a deep breath. "Don't exaggerate." Though he countered me, his voice sounded weak. "I've spoken much today and am already weary. Yet certain matters must be clarified while the day remains." I rubbed my temples. "Your Excellency, I told you long before our marriage, a family's greatest fear is discord, for it brings endless calamity upon descendants." I spread my hands and whispered softly, "We've been married for 2 years now. You know me well enough. I, Gao Suyun, am not without means. I simply disdain resorting to underhanded tricks. But if cornered, I will draw my dagger." At these words, Wu Xiu's forehead twitched. He sneered coldly, "You threatening me?" I shook my head. "If you remain indecisive and procrastinate, the future will only lead to a bitter, mutually destructive struggle between me and concubine Bai. I do not wish to reach that point. My father taught me to read, instructing me that there are things one must do and things one must not do. He taught me that a man of ambition sees the world as his domain, where 10,000 miles are as close as neighbors. There are so many great principles in this world. I refuse to be trapped in the murky secrets of the inner quarters, wasting my time fighting for favor over petty affections. I do not wish to harm Bai Xingyang, not because I cannot, but because I have a conscience and convictions. If you do not decide soon, you will surely regret it later." After I finished speaking, the color drained completely from Wu Xiu's face. He knew. I was forcing him to make a choice. Wu Xiu knew I was right. These past 2 years, the seemingly balanced relationship between wife and concubine had actually concealed countless tensions and crises. Wu Xiu stared at me for a long moment, finally speechless, and fled in disarray. It seemed he still couldn't face it. He couldn't face the fact that his beloved by concubine would resort to such ruthless tactics. I didn't press him, only waited for his decision. Several days passed, and the grand lady's spirits improved considerably. She took my hand, urging me to take good care of myself and nurture the pregnancy. She also said many words to ease my mind. I listened gently, my demeanor entirely compliant. The grand lady was old, the true decision-maker in the household remained Wu Xiu. By the 3rd evening, Wu Xiu came to my courtyard. He dismissed the servants, his face unusually despondent. Xin Yang. She once saved my life. Her inability to bear children wasn't due to a barrenness potion from the brothel, but because my former wife, Lady Li. Wu Xiu recounted to me, haltingly, how he and Bai Xingyang had met. Bai Xingyang had been a courtesan in Yangzhou. Possessing extraordinary beauty and mastery of music, chess, calligraphy, and painting, she was treasured by her madam as a rare commodity. It so happened that one year, Wu Xiu traveled to Yangzhou to investigate a case. Yangzhou officials, seeking to bribe him, presented Bai Xingyang as a gift. To lull the corrupt officials into complacency, Wu Xiu accepted her. At the time, he paid her little mind. But as his investigation delved deeper, threatening the interests of more powerful factions, those men grew murderous, plotting to eliminate Wu Xiu to cut off the threat at its root. To evade pursuit, Wu Xiu placed Bai Xingyang as a visible decoy while he went into hiding. Later, those men captured Bai Xingyang and subjected her to brutal torture to uncover Wu Xiu's whereabouts. Wu Xiu expected her to confess everything as he had anticipated. But Bai Xingyang, bound by deep affection for him, remained utterly silent despite the brutal interrogation. It was only then that Wu Xiu truly placed her in his heart. After that ordeal, Bai Xingyang's health never fully recovered. Once the case concluded, Wu Xiu brought her back to the Jing'an Marquis' residence. The dowager, who disliked women of brothel origin, heard of Bai Xinyan's noble deeds and couldn't help but praise. Truly, heroic women emerge from humble beginnings. The then Marquise of Jing'an, Lady Li, resented Bai Xinyan's special favor and repeatedly sought to harm her. Finally, taking advantage of his absence, she forced Bai Xinyang to drink a potion that would prevent conception. When Wu Xiu returned to the mansion, he found Bai Xinyang barely clinging to life. Enraged, he had a fierce argument with Lady Li, severing ties with her completely. Lady Li was a deeply calculating woman. This incident weighed heavily on her heart for a long time, eventually leading to an illness from which she never recovered. Wu Xiu gazed at me calmly, offering a self-deprecating smile. I have already wronged Xinyang once, I cannot betray her a second time. So be it as you say. Once you bear the child, I shall prepare a dowry for you. Whether you choose to remarry or not is entirely up to you. His decisive choice actually earned me some respect. I took a deep breath and bowed to him. Thank you, your lordship, for your understanding. Wu Xiu looked at me deeply. Su Yun, I know you are a good woman. I have wronged you. I will repay what I owe you in the future. After he left, Ruame asked anxiously, Miss, are you really going to divorce him? We finally have a child. This is just making someone else's wedding dress. I shook my head and sighed. If I stay in the Marquis' mansion, how could concubine Bai let me off? But if I fight back and hurt her, Wu Xiu won't let it go either. It's better to withdraw early. This is a battle I can never win. Ruame said with reddened eyes, how can your child be raised by that kiln girl turned concubine? My heart ached too, but if they framed me and pinned a crime on me, wouldn't the child's life become even harder? When Wu Xiu first proposed that so-called solution, I even considered drinking a bowl of safflower decoction to abort this child, then everyone would be free. But after much thought, I still couldn't bring myself to do it. Madame Bai cannot bear children. If she were truly wise, she should treat this child well. Only then would her days be prolonged. I explained the pros and cons to Ruame. My eldest uncle's matter had long been resolved, and my father had always been prudent. Now was the best time for me to leave Wu Ji. He felt guilty toward me and wouldn't abandon the Gao family in the future. Though the child remained, its blood would forever carry the Gao lineage that would never change. My maternal family feels indebted to me, and my sisters have all married. Even if I divorce, it won't affect them. Ruame, we can use this chance to return to the Gao family and start anew. I'm only 19, why should I spend my days caught between Wu Xiu and Bai Shimong, enduring in silence? Right now, I just want to escape all this and live for myself. With my decision made, I could finally rest easy and focus on my pregnancy. Aunt Bai, knowing I was leaving, put her mind at ease and stopped her petty schemes. Wu Xiu, having made his choice, opened up instead, treating me with far more natural warmth than before. A few days later, when he came to see me, I seized the moment. Don't tell the grand lady about the divorce yet, but you can give me the divorce papers to keep for now. Wu Xiu lowered his eyes. You fear I'll renege? I chuckled softly, not exactly, but it's more reassuring to hold them. I'll sleep better that way. Wu Xiu sighed. I never imagined a woman would one day fear me like a venomous snake. I waved my hand. It's not that. But if I were to bear his child and he still wouldn't let me go, I truly couldn't bear it. The next day, Wu Xiu's expression was grim, yet he still handed me the divorce papers. I stored them carefully, my mood unusually bright. Upon hearing I was pregnant, Mother came to visit, laden with bundles of nourishing foods and fabrics. After much deliberation, I couldn't help but tell her about the divorce agreement. The moment she heard, her eyes instantly reddened. I thought she'd scold me, but she only held me and wept. It's your mother's fault. I couldn't stand up for you, forcing you to endure this humiliation for so long. She wiped her tears. My dear child, once you give birth to this baby, I'll take you home. Then we'll focus on restoring your health. Your father has many students from respectable families with bright futures. I'll carefully search and find you a scholar, handsome and of good character, to marry. We won't endure this humiliation any longer. If Mother had blamed me, I might have felt more at ease. But hearing mother say this, I couldn't hold back and burst into tears, burying my face in her embrace. Mother, I'm sorry. I know I shouldn't have been so selfish. I should have thought long-term, tried to win back the Marquis's heart through this child, and secured father and uncle's careers. But I just couldn't do it. Mother patted my back softly and whispered, my child, it's not your fault. It's all because we're useless. As we spoke, a tall figure seemed to loom outside the door. It might have been Wu Jiu. But at that moment, I didn't care. 3 months later, my belly began to show. The first time I felt the baby move, I nearly cried with joy. This connection between mother and child was such a wondrous, beautiful sensation. Yet it was soon followed by all sorts of discomforts. At first, my appetite was voracious, but now I vomited everything I ate. Sometimes just a whiff of fishy smell would make me vomit everything in my stomach. My body also grew less agile, walking a few steps left me breathless. Wu Jiu sighed, pregnancy is so difficult for women. He only realized now? The physician often came to check my pulse, advising me to relax and eat as much as possible. But I simply couldn't eat. The dowager was deeply concerned, transferring all the cooks from her private kitchen to attend to me. She also bestowed numerous gifts upon me, the storeroom was nearly overflowing. One day, while feeling relatively well, I decided to have a set of gold pendants made for the child. Wu Jiu happened to visit then. Seeing several pendant designs laid out on my bed, he asked, "What are these?" I replied while examining them, as the mother, I ought to leave something for the child. Though the person is gone, these things remain, a keepsake to remember them by. Each locket design held its own meaning. Wu Jiu seemed intrigued too. He picked one up and said, "This one reads graceful and kind-hearted, perfect for a girl." I tossed it aside. Why must a girl be graceful and kind-hearted? I only wish for her to be blessed with longevity and happiness, to live freely and unrestrained, for herself alone. After saying that, I picked up one inscribed with peace and auspiciousness to examine. This one would suit either gender. Wu Jiu stood silently beside me. Perhaps my words had touched upon his own unspoken concerns. I tugged at the corner of my mouth, choosing not to acknowledge him. Later, after the peace and auspiciousness locket was crafted, Wu Jiu brought another set he had chosen, inscribed with long life and 100 years. By the 7th or 8th month, my body grew increasingly heavy. Sometimes I couldn't even get up to use the restroom at night, needing a maid to attend to me. Ruame specially laid out a mattress on the floor beside me. Wu Jiu also came whenever he had time. Once, he slept in the main chamber for 5 consecutive days. That evening, concubine Bai unexpectedly sent a maid to summon him. "Your Excellency, the concubine is unwell and wishes for you to come see her." This was the first time concubine Bai had ever sent someone for him. I was somewhat surprised, but only said, "Your lordship should go see her. Her health is paramount." Wu Jiu's expression darkened. Frowning, he snapped, "If she's unwell, she should summon a physician." How utterly improper. The young maid turned pale with fright and hurriedly retreated. I found it rather amusing. When did the home mansion ever have rules? Madame Bai is merely a concubine. Not a single aspect of her attire, expenses, or conduct has ever followed any established protocol. To start demanding propriety now is truly rather late. And so, the day of my labor arrived swiftly. On the day my water broke, the midwife and delivery chamber were already fully prepared. I proceeded directly to the delivery room to await the birth. The midwife felt my belly and said, "Madam, there's no need to worry. The baby is perfectly positioned. Just push when the time comes, and it will be born soon. The Marquis and the Grand Lady are both waiting outside. You truly are a blessed woman." My heart was filled with dread, but I forced a smile. When the contractions hit, it felt as though every bone in my body was being crushed. The midwife urged, "Cry out when it hurts, don't hold back. How could you possibly endure this?" My voice broke in shouts, "Ah! Ah! Ah!" Though there were complications along the way, I finally delivered a boy smoothly at midnight. The newborn was rosy-cheeked and cried loudly. After his bath, he looked much more presentable. The Grand Lady, seeing it was a boy, burst into tears of joy on the spot. It was said that Wu Shiyu was also overjoyed, publicly rewarding everyone present. A few days passed, and the child grew a bit more. Ruame said his upper face, with his eyebrows and eyes, resembled mine, while his lower face resembled Wu Shiyu's, making him exceptionally handsome and adorable. Perhaps because he was my own child, I couldn't tear my eyes away from him. This tiny bundle, every cry and smile tugged at my heartstrings. Only after my health improved did Ruame tell me that on the day of my delivery, they had caught an old woman lurking suspiciously in the birthing chamber, her intentions unknown. They handed her over to Wu Shiyu, but naturally, no truth came out of her. It seemed concubine feared I might change my mind after giving birth to a son and refuse to leave, so she tried to give me a parting gift? This only strengthened my resolve to depart quickly. Yet every time I saw the child's little face, my heart ached unbearably. So it was that the child stayed by my side for 10 days before I hardened my heart and had them send him to the wet nurse's quarters. Ruame said tearfully, "Miss. The young master." I closed my eyes. Having resolved to let go, I would not stir the waters again. Wu Shiyu was clearly overjoyed to receive this child. He visited daily after leaving the magistrate's office, clutching the infant without letting go. Though most families valued sons over grandsons, but Wu Shiyu had only gotten his first son in his 30s, one could imagine the depth of his emotions. When he heard I wouldn't see the child anymore, he came to visit me with the baby in his arms, his eyes brimming with unbearable sorrow. What was the point of pretending now? I deliberately pretended not to see him, gritting my teeth as I said, after the postpartum period. "I'll leave. Don't bring the child over anymore." Wu Shiyu stared at the child's tiny, trembling hand and whispered, "He's so adorable. Can you really bear to do this?" I turned away. Wasn't this agreed long ago? The Marquis shouldn't go back on his word. After a long moment, Wu Shiyu murmured, "I won't." After that, I rested every day. Yet the sound of a baby's cry seemed to linger in my ears. I couldn't help but realize how cruel I was. Because life at the Marquis's residence was unbearable, I was abandoning my child to gain my freedom. Was I too selfish? As soon as Ruame entered, she gasped, "Miss, you mustn't cry during your confinement. You need to take care of yourself." She immediately came to wipe my tears. I drew a deep breath and gradually stifled my tears. What's done is done, dwelling on it serves no purpose. I'll simply accept that. We were never meant to be mother and child. After completing my confinement period, I bathed thoroughly from head to toe. Then I began packing my belongings and instructed the servants to send word to the Gao household, requesting my mother to come for me. 2 months prior, Wu Shiyu had already given me a portion of his private assets. It included prime farmland and shopfronts, all in exceptionally desirable locations. I did not refuse. Consider it compensation for bearing his children and tending to his household these past years. In recent days, Wu Shiyu had named the child Wu Tianxiang, with the childhood name Xiangge. I gathered all the fine gifts the dowager lady had given me, along with some treasured heirlooms from my maternal family, intending to leave them all to Xiangge. As I pondered whether to have the dowager lady store them or keep them myself for now, I suddenly noticed Wu Shiyu had been standing outside the door for quite some time. His face was pale, his gaze fixed intently on me, his eyes unblinking. Not knowing what ailment had overtaken him, I pretended not to see. After a long while, Wu Shiyu suddenly spoke, "Su-yun, can't you just not leave?" Frowning, I replied stiffly, "The divorce papers are already written. Your lordship, please don't say such things." Wu Shiyu suddenly stepped forward, embraced me tightly, and exclaimed passionately, "I regret it, Su-yun. I truly regret it. You can't leave now. Family bonds shouldn't be severed. You're the child's real mother. Xiangge needs you." I was so foolish. The truth is, I've long felt. I pushed him away forcefully, enunciating each word, "Your lordship, I gave you a choice back then. You chose concubine by. Now you intend to betray her again?" These were his own words to me, and I returned them in kind. Wu Shiyu covered his face with both hands, his voice hoarse. I was wrong. I was foolish. A pearl and jade right before my eyes, yet I failed to recognize them. I can send Xingyang away from the estate. I promise she won't affect you or Xianga anymore. Please, don't leave. It's unnecessary. Truly unnecessary. Seeing the icy expression on my face, Wu Xiu stood up, walking toward the door as he spoke. Suyun, wait for me. I'll send Xinyan away right now. Wait for me. I didn't know what Wu Xiu was trying to achieve with this scene. If only he'd known today would come, why bother back then? Anyway, mother would be back tomorrow to take me away. But come evening, commotion suddenly erupted outside the courtyard. Just as I was puzzling over it, Ruame rushed in and whispered, "Concubine by hanged herself." Just as I thought. I sneered coldly, "What's her condition?" Ruame curled her lip, "She's fine, they saved her. She's refusing to leave the mansion even though the Marquis ordered her to stay outside the estate. She's still throwing a fit, threatening to kill herself." I knew it. Getting my concubine to leave wouldn't be that easy. The night passed in silence. The next day, mother arrived with quite a few people to fetch me. The grand lady went to the temple early this morning to pray for Xianga's well-being. I deliberately chose a day when she was absent to leave. Though I endured many injustices in the Marquis's household these past years, the grand lady treated me quite well. I left her a letter as my farewell. Apart from the child, I had little else to linger for at the Marquis of Jing'an's residence. I ordered everyone to pack our belongings and depart. But as our group reached the gate, we suddenly heard someone calling out, "Suyun, wait." Turning back, I saw Wu Xiu rushing over, clutching the child in his arms. He stood at the entrance, his hands trembling. "Suyun, don't leave. Could you give me a little more time? To settle everything." I sighed, walked over, and tucked the blanket around the child gently before saying, "Your lordship, this is where we part. Whatever happens, concubine Bai will cry, make a scene, and threaten suicide. She always finds a way. Stop deceiving yourself. You've already made your choice, haven't you?" Just as I climbed into the carriage, a child's piercing wail erupted behind me. "Wah! Wah! Wah!" It was my child crying. Was the cry so loud because he knew his mother was leaving him? Fighting back tears, I ordered resolutely, "Let's go." The Jing'an Marquis's residence grew smaller and smaller behind us. Wu Xi stood at the mansion's gate, cradling the child. The four characters Jing'an Marquis's residence on the plaque cast an eerie, desolate shadow over the father and son. Back home, grandmother, father, elder uncle, and elder aunt all welcomed me warmly. They comforted me, urging me to put everything out of my mind and rest well at home. Father choked out, "My dear child, it's good you're back. Your courtyard from before your marriage remains untouched. The servants clean it daily, waiting for your return." Tears welling in my eyes, I replied, "Thank you, Father." Father's eyes reddened. "It's good you're back. It's good you're back." 3 years had passed, and my younger brother had grown considerably, now a young lad. He said, "Big sister, I'll protect you from now on. I'll make sure you live a good life." My heart swelled with emotion. Family truly is the best. My divorce and return home were handled with utmost discretion. It caused no major uproar. Only behind closed doors did many families sigh at my misfortune. They'd long warned that the Marquis of Jing'an was no suitable match. Even after bearing his child and enduring his fury, she still couldn't keep his heart. From now on, no one would dare marry their daughter into that suffering. Only my second sister's mother-in-law heard of this and gave her the cold shoulder for 2 days. But my second sister was no longer the naive girl she once was. Having borne a son and a daughter to young General Lin, she had firmly established her place in her in-laws' household. Young General Lin, too, had learned to speak up for his wife, urging his mother to ease up. Within days, it was said that Wu Xiu found some flimsy excuse to berate the eldest son of the Lin family. Only then did my second sister's mother-in-law realize that my divorce from Wu Xiu didn't mean we'd never speak again. He was still willing to stand up for me. So she cooled down once more. I, however, was utterly speechless. Whatever Wu Xiu did now had nothing to do with me. I only hoped he'd treat the children well. I asked for nothing more. After 3 years at the Jing'an Marquis's mansion, life back home felt especially peaceful. Father and mother did not press me to remarry, only instructing me to rest well. Thus, Half a year swiftly passed. It was not until the following spring that I learned of the turmoil at the Jing'an Marquis' residence. The matter remained unknown to outsiders. However, I had a dowry maid named Ruoliu who had married the steward of the Jing'an Marquis' household. Though I had left, I had not brought her back with me. Ruoliu and Ruame were very close. Upon hearing the news, she came specifically to inform me. It was said that after I left, the dowager lady fell ill and never managed affairs again. Wu Xiyu did not fulfill their earlier agreement to entrust Xiangge to concubine Bai's care. Instead, he personally took the child, placing him under the wet nurse's supervision. Concubine Bai harbored resentment over this. Yet she dared not show it openly, merely showering Xiangge with affection when Wu Xiyu was present, then neglecting him when he was absent. Ruoliu vividly recounted, "The young master bears such a striking resemblance to our young mistress. Each time the Marquis sees him, his longing for her grows ever stronger." One day, Xiangge caught a cold that lingered for many days without improvement. Wu Xiyu flew into a rage. Upon thorough investigation, he discovered that concubine Bai had deliberately sent the wet nurse away and left the windows open, intending to let Xiangge catch a chill. Further interrogation revealed that the maidservants all confessed, the child bore bruises, inflicted secretly by concubine Bai. No wonder Wu Xiyu had always thought Xiangge's constant crying was due to frail health. Hearing this, I was furious. What was Bai Xinyang thinking? I'm already gone. She's already won. Why couldn't she just take care of the child properly? Ruoliu said that in his rage, Wu Xiyu ordered Bai concubine locked in the woodshed. Having never endured such hardship in all these years, Bai concubine soon became delirious. When Wu Xiyu visited her later, she rambled incoherently. "I know you resent me, hate me. Though Lady Gao is gone, she took the Marquis' heart with her. Every time you look at Xiangge, it's as if you're seeing Lady Gao. As long as this child exists, you'll never forget her. Since she left, you've never touched me again. Marquis, don't you remember what happened in Yangzhou all those years ago?" When she heard Wu Xiyu planned to send her away from the estate, she suddenly burst into a long, piercing laugh. "Once a man changes his heart, a woman becomes worthless. Ha 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 ha." And so, Bai concubine was sent away from the estate. I sighed. Leaving the estate might not be such a bad thing. Back then, anyone with eyes could see that Bai concubine's lofty status couldn't last long. Ruoliu said, "Miss, if she had truly behaved herself, it might have been different." Ruame asked, "What did she do now?" According to Ruoliu, after leaving the estate, Bai concubine resided in an elegant, exquisitely crafted two-courtyard residence, still attended by numerous servants. Had she lived quietly, she could have enjoyed a comfortable life. But not even half a year passed before she brought some lover home from who knows where. They were caught red-handed in bed by the steward, locked in a passionate embrace. When she was dragged before Lord Wu, disheveled and filthy, she knew forgiveness was impossible. So she threw caution to the wind and declared, "You've already cast me out. Why shouldn't I find myself another man? Am I supposed to live a life of chastity for you? Your Excellency, you're the heartless one. How much suffering I endured for you in Yangzhou, how quickly you've forgotten. Ha ha ha. Let me tell you the truth, I knew your plan all along. I was in cahoots with those men, it was all just a ploy to make you believe I was suffering. And another thing, I've long been barren, unable to bear children. That's why I pinned it on your first wife, Lady Li. From start to finish, she never gave me any barrenness potion. But you believed my lies and refused to hear her side. Poor Lady Li, why did she die so quickly? You drove her to her death. Ha 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 ha. Only Gao Suyun was smart enough to know, a wife is inferior to a concubine inferior to an affair, and an affair inferior to one you can never have, keeping you forever hooked. Wu Xiyu. Whereby concubine ended up, no one knows. But she certainly wouldn't appear before anyone again. Wu Xiyu, a marquis wielding immense power, manipulated like a puppet by a mere courtesan, how utterly ridiculous. I knew these words must have been relayed by Wu Xiyu through Ruoliu. But that meant absolutely nothing. A few days later, Wu Xiyu came to the Gao residence with Xiangge to find me. Since he had a child, his parents didn't stop him. He looked haggard, as if he'd aged several years. The moment he saw me, he whispered softly, "I've dealt with my concubine. Please come back." He pleaded earnestly, "From now on, there will be no more obstacles between us. This time, I will ensure you enter the household with honor and glory, making you the most esteemed marquise in all the capital. For the sake of our child, please give me one more chance." I shook my head, "Your Excellency, it is unnecessary. If the child misses me, you may have the servants bring him to me. Should he need anything, I will not neglect him. But as for us, it is best to leave it at that." Wu Xiu's face flushed with shame. "Suyun, can't you give me one more chance? Mending a broken mirror is a beautiful tale. I realize how terribly wrong I was before. That vile woman deceived me. I will never wrong you again." I lifted my gaze to meet his eyes and sighed. "Your lordship, do you remember Song Hanlin?" Wu Xiu froze. I continued, "Hanlin Scholar Song always complained to you about Lady Song's jealousy, seeking advice on how to maintain harmony among his wives and concubines. Yet in truth, whenever Lady Song scolded or struck him, he accepted it with sweetness. Even when His Majesty bestowed a concubine upon him, he refused to accept it, even defying the imperial decree." I gazed into Wu Xiu's eyes and said, "Because Hanlin Song understood that Lady Song cared for him and valued him. That's why he couldn't bear to see her sad or hurt. Men flattering each other and bragging in public are just putting on a show. Only sincere men know how to respect their wives." Compared to Hanlin Song, Wu Xiu seemed like a joke. I stated plainly, "Your lordship, if you've endured profound suffering, wouldn't seeing people or events from that time reignite that suffocating agony?" Wu Xiu opened his mouth, "Suyun." I replied calmly, "Every time I see you, I'm reminded of the humiliating days at the Jing'an Marquis' residence. You forced me into marriage with your power and influence, yet never once respected me. You shattered every childhood dream I had of a loving marriage and growing old together." Wu Xiu trembled, "Things are different now. I swear, from this day forward, you will be the only woman in my life. Please, forgive me one more time." He seemed pitiable, but this was all his own doing. "Marquis, the truth is, you are frighteningly heartless. Your former wife, Lady Li, committed no wrong, yet you drove her to her death by depression solely because Bai Xingyang framed her. As for concubine Bai, you did pour your heart into loving her once. But the moment her favor waned, you discarded her like a worn-out shoe. You are the most cold-hearted and unfeeling person I have ever known. Truthfully, I've long been aware of this. Had Wu Xiu been truly trustworthy, concubine Bai wouldn't feel such unease. She too saw his true nature early on, fearing she might meet the same fate as Lady Li. I sighed deeply, "Your lordship, we are now divorced. Let us part ways, each finding our own happiness. Please do not seek me out again." Wu Xiu stood there, eyes reddened, a pitiful sight. As I turned away, my heart stirred for a moment. Back when I first discovered my pregnancy, I had harbored illusions about him. I longed to be a loving couple, to become the kind parents my own were, to live out our days in peace. But the moment he demanded I hand the child over to Bai Shi's mother, I severed every last shred of that fantasy. "Please spare me, and spare yourself." After this final conversation, Wu Xiu vanished for a long time. Yet after some time, he began visiting the Gao residence again, bringing Xiang'er to see me every few days. The child grew more dependent on his mother as he aged, and I missed him too. But that didn't mean I wished to see Wu Xiu. So each time he came, I had my younger brother fetch the child from the outer courtyard while I avoided him. Until 3 years later, Wu Xiu arrived at my door once more. This time, I didn't send my brother. I went out to greet him myself. When Wu Xiu saw me, his eyes lit up. He sighed, "Suyun. It's been so long. You have finally agreed to see me." I replied in a clear voice, "Your Excellency, this is the last time we shall meet. Next month, I shall be married." The color drained from Wu Xiu's face. "You're getting married. But all these years, I've waited for you. The Marquis' household has no sons, I've kept myself pure for you, hoping you'd see my sincerity. Xiang'e and mother have always wished for your return. I am no longer the heartless, cold-blooded person you imagine." I replied calmly, "Our past matters are long gone. I have forgotten them all. To me now, Wu Xiyu was like a stranger. No longer stirred by any emotion. The man I am about to marry is father's disciple. He is young and handsome, exceptionally talented, and most importantly, a man of integrity and righteousness. These past 2 years, he has treated me well and expressed his desire to marry me. Yet I feel I am a woman who has been married before, and somehow, it feels mismatched. So I have consistently refused. This time, having passed the imperial examinations and secured the 3rd highest rank, he came to our home once more to propose. I said, once you become an official, aren't you afraid of offending the Marquis of Jing'an? After all, the entire court knows the Marquis of Jing'an holds deep affection for me and has waited patiently all these years. But he replied, truthfully, my ambitions lie not in officialdom. I pursued this honor only to ease my future father-in-law and mother-in-law's concerns. Besides, I have no intention of climbing that ladder to the heavens, so I have no connection whatsoever with the Marquis of Jing'an. If you don't mind my lack of ambition, please accept my proposal. With that, he bowed deeply to me with a cheerful smile. I finally felt my heart beat once more. So I agreed to marry him. Watching Wu Xi's flustered expression, I whispered softly, Your Lordship, I shall be married next month. If you wish, you may come for a cup of celebratory wine, if not, I won't force you. When you return later, I will no longer be at the Gao residence. Even if you stood waiting for me all this time, I have no obligation to return your deep affection. Some things, once delayed, are lost forever. The end.